What's up, y'all? It is February 28th, 2024. Wimbiana recently said that KD was his favorite player, so they asked KD about it. He said, they asked him, "What does that mean to you?" He said, "Well, it means I'm old." What's up, y'all? It is the HoopStorians. Neek is running late, so it is just me in the meantime. Let's get into this date in NBA history. February 28th, 1981. Houston's Calvin Murphy made 78 consecutive free throws, made the last of them in a game against San Diego, setting what was then an NBA record. It was broken during the 94 season by Minnesota's Michael Williams, who converted 97 free throws in a row. I think it's really crazy when you think of all the top free throw shooters like a Steph Curry, a Steve Nash, a Mark Price. I mean, even a Kobe, for example. And if you look at his Mike, even Kobe and they were nowhere near 90s. They were around 84, 83. You had guys like Nash up into 90. Dirk, great shooter. I think it's crazy in the NBA's. What year are we in now? We're in 77 seasons. In 77 seasons, nobody has ever hit 100 straight free throws. I think that is an insane number. So I don't know if we'll ever get to 100 free throws because you see all the great shooters we have, and we have yet to have 100 consecutive free throws for a record. So that is this day in NBA history. Let me go over here real quick. All right. So, like I said, Neek is running late. We'll have to get him into it. We'll have to get him into it whenever he gets on. Until then, today I want to discuss the top small forwards of all time. With this top small forwards of all the time, I just kind of narrowed it down to my 10. If you guys have a different 10 or if there's somebody I missed, please let me know. What's crazy about the small forward is I really think it's the deepest position ever. I think it's the deepest position ever because you have a lot of people might say point guard, might say center. But the reason why I think small forward is the deepest ever because you see guys blend in so much. It's like an in-between position. You see power forwards, they go down to small forwards. You see shooting guards go up to small forwards. Um, Fun fact, Giannis's first All-Star season, he was a small forward. He did not make the list because he plays primarily at power forward. One of Charles Barkley's best seasons ever, he played the small forward. So, and now we got Neek. Ugh. What's up? You missed this day in NBA history.
Oh man, sorry about that.
I know it's gonna terribly tear you up. So I'll let him get situated. So anyway, so the reason why I want to do small forward is like I said, I think that's the deepest position ever. You have a bunch of shooting guards that have played small forward for a season, a game. You have a bunch of power forwards that have gone down to a small forward position. Just a couple guys that I want to give an honorable mention because, like I said, they didn't play small forward their entire career. Guys like Barkley, Giannis, Jordan, Kobe. What about you, Nick? You got any honorable small forward mentions that didn't really play small forward their entire years, but they did play seasons or stretches at it?
I mean, you mentioned the ones I would think. I think like a Kobe, who Tracy McGrady, something like that.
Tracy McGrady. There's another Vince Carter. There's another one. So anyways, yeah, I wanted to get into top 10 small forwards, and I was going to kind of go down the line, and then you go. We'll see what you got.
Okay, it's probably gonna be
And,
similar to on week.
well,
Can you
right.
hear
Well,
me?
there might.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay.
So there might be some though that I got in there that you don't. So we'll go anyone we don't. Coming in at number 10th, I have Paul Pierce. Um, Paul Pierce. He has one NBA title, a Finals MVP, 4 All NBA selections, 10 All Star games. Yeah, these are all the rankings at the beginning of the season because rankings are constantly moving with players currently playing. So he's 17th in scoring, 22nd in steals, 79th in assists, 89th in rebounds, 169th in blocks. Just to let you know, my cutoff, I did have Billy Cunningham, he was my 11th guy, so we didn't get him in. His couple all NBA first teams, I really wanted to get him in, but I just couldn't find a spot. You got any problem with me getting Paul Pierce at number 10? And what do you think about Paul Pierce at 10th? You think that's high, low? Where do you think that works?
I, I mean, I could see Paul Pierce anywhere between like 8 and 10. So yeah, I have him on my list. I don't have a problem with him being at number 10.
What number do you got him at your list?
Probably 9. I mean, he
9.
might even be 10. He's just that range,
What
eight
would
to
what would
ten
you
to me.
We're going to ask this
Mhm.
about everybody that's lower at least. What would it have took with Paul Pierce? He's got over 25,000 points, multiple All-Star, multiple All NBA. What would it took him to really vaunt up into that upper echelon of the top 10 for you
For
that he was
me,
missing?
Paul Pierce would have had to have had stretches where he was the most dominant player in the league, or at least among the most dominant. I say like at least like top 3. I don't feel like he was ever in that.
Yeah, Paul Pierce, he gets this 10th ranking because he was a top, depending on the season, maybe he'd vault into the top 10, but, he was around the top 15th player in the league for about 15 years, somewhere in that range, 10 years or whatever. His numbers obviously went way down when Garnett and Allen got there, but he was still
Right.
balling. His efficiency went way up. So, what took for me is one, he never made an All NBA first team. So, right there. And if you don't believe that, listen to Michelle Beadle clown the shit out of him when Jalen Rose was clowning him for saying he was better than Wade. Um, yeah,
That's
so
funny.
he had no all NBAs, he had no MVPs, and also too, I know he got the Finals MVP, but Garnett was the best player on that team. So he was
Right.
at best the second best player on a championship team and not the first. Like I said, it was just that consistent level of 15 plus years or whatever as being that. Um, what about if he had won an MVP or even made an All NBA first team? Would that have jumped him up a spot for you or no?
To make an all NBA first team is displaying some level of dominance, whether
Hmm.
it's in steals, defense, something like that. I just felt like, yeah, that could have, because that's showing that he was at least excelling somewhere.
I got you. Let's move up to 9. 9, and just to let you know too, I think like I always say this, to me, what makes a great player is a tripod of things. Um, I mean, and I'm not even counting the eye test. I'm just talking about stuff you can actually list off. So it's accolades, all NBA teams, all pro teams, um, all-star games, MVPs, awards like that. And then you got to have the numbers to back it up as well. And
Right.
then you have to have the titles. So, obviously the stronger your three legs are, the stronger your tripod is. So the higher ranking you go. But some players, they only have two out of the three. Some players only have one out of the three, and to me, that just knocks them down a level. So if you got all three, you got all three. And Paul Pierce, he has kind of on the accolades. He has great all-time numbers.
Hmm.
And he has the one ring, and that's kind of like a iffy one because he wasn't the man. Speaking of which, the next one I got up at number 9 is Kawhi Leonard.
Okay.
Um, he has two NBA titles, two Finals MVPs, five All NBAs, five All Star, two Defensive Player of the Year, seven All Defensive Selection. He's not really high up in any of the stats yet because he, is always hurt. He's about 136 in steals. That's it. How do you feel about Kawhi coming in at number 9?
Kawhi's good at number 9. I had him at my number 8, but at the same time, I understand why Kawhi is where he is on the list. He's an effective player. He really is, but at the same time, he's not. Again, he's not one of them dominant players. Like, he's dominant on the defensive end when he wants to. He's had his defensive players of the year. However, and he's clutch too. He can be clutch, but he's not the type of player that you can lean on to give you a consistent, first of all, to play a whole season, but also to give you a consistent 25 that you might need from a star.
What about
He's
in the
not
seasons
equipped.
where he has been dominant? Because there's been seasons where, especially in 2019, where he was given over 25. That one season where Zaza messed up his ankle, that was another season of over 25. So he he is dominant in stretches, is he not?
In stretches, yeah. But in order to be higher on the list, he would need to be dominant more consistently.
Hmm. We got a question. Just going off skill, would you rank him higher?
Off skill, yeah, he's a very skilled player. I mean, he has a good percentage as far as his jump shot, and he can give you anything. Whether it's a jump shot, he can score in the paint. He's got mid range, so yeah,
Just to let you know, like I said, I have him ranked ninth. If we were going off skill, I mean, he would jump at least 4 spots. He would definitely be top five if we were just going off that. My main
yeah,
thing with
a two-way
Kawhi is,
player.
yeah, no, he's definitely a two-way player. My main thing with Kawhi, though, is like I said, he has been in the league now 13 years. He hasn't even cracked the top 250 in scoring. You look at LeBron, just for example, since we're on a small forward kick, LeBron, after 13 years, he had 26,000 points. He was in the
Mhm.
top 10 all time already in scoring, well, a little outside of the top 10, but you get my point. He was a top
Yeah,
15 scorer by the time he was in year 13. And that's really what kills Kawhi's game for me is, the best ability is availability. And I think really to be ranked number 9 at the numbers he has put up for career totals is amazing. Like I said, I have him over Paul Pierce just because I don't think he was the best player on the 2014 Spurs. I still think that was Duncan. Um,
yeah,
I think if you look at the numbers and the efficiency, I think every everybody kind of rotated still around Duncan. He was such a cerebral player at that point. He never really relied on his athleticism, so he's still very effective. So Kawhi to me was, and maybe he was even behind Parker, but locking down LeBron and really showing out in Miami, that's what got him that one. But in 2019, he was clearly the best player. But we could also argue if the Warriors were healthy, would they have won? That's one of those things where I think we all think it's yes, but we don't know until you play the game. Um, but yeah, that's why I have Kawhi at 9. What range would you have? Where do you think the highest Kawhi could be to the lowest? You said Paul Pierce is good anywhere 8 to 10. Where would you think Kawhi would be?
where Kawhi will be at his lowest.
Yeah, yeah, his range. We'll go high to low on all of them.
So high Kawhi, I could see as high as 5, maybe even 4, but definitely 5. Um, Low, I feel as though where he is. I mean, eight, 8 or 9 is low.
What
I don't
what
think
would
he.
what would jump him up so high to 5 though? Like, what are the
For
pros of
me,
Kawhi? Yeah, for you.
what would jump him up if he was more aggressive offensively for me because he's already doing things defensively that I like, but I feel as though if he was to bring out a more aggressive offensive approach to the game, he'd be a different beast than what he already is. Because even at the two-way, for instance, look at LeBron. If LeBron gets out there and he's on a defensive tear, there's literally nothing you can do. There's no way to stop. And I feel as though Kawhi skill set, he could have that type of. He could be put in that same category as LeBron if he was to assert himself like that. And I feel like he's not. So that's why the skill is there. It's undeniable. But I don't
From
know if he really has the will.
from the way everybody's playing, from the way all the teams are playing right now, we recently did this. I think the Clippers are looking like they have the second best chance to win the title right now. Doesn't mean necessarily I'll pick them with the second best, but just from the play that I'm seeing currently. So if Kawhi is able to lead this Clippers franchise to their first title, he wins Finals MVP. Does he jump up more spots for you at that point?
He would, because this will be 3 different teams that he's been able to win with and also win a finals MVP with. So that has to say something. So yeah, he would jump up. That's
He's
just
in
an
that
extra level of greatness.
Yeah, he's in that LeBron range then.
Exactly. Which he can be. This is what I'm saying.
So let's move on to the next person I have up. So that's 9. The next person I have at 8th is John Havlicek.
Okay.
Where do you got John Havlicek?
I had Havlicek at 9.
Okay. So I see we're still staying in the same range. Some of the things on Havlicek: he has 8 NBA titles. He has a Finals MVP, 11 All NBA selections, 13 All Stars, 5 All Defensive First Team selections. He's currently 18th in scoring, 37 assists, 76 in rebounds. Um, we've seen the memes out there that Havlicek's 8-0 and that's over Jordan, and then he has literally better numbers in all these other categories other than scoring with Jordan. Um, what range do you see Havlicek as the highest he could be versus the lowest? And what puts him at 8 for you, like ahead of guys like Kawhi and Paul Pierce, but obviously lower than some of these other people?
Um, let's see. So ask that question again. I'm sorry.
No, I said, what makes you have him coming in at 8? Like, why is he ranked to you below these people, higher than some of these people? What about Hondo doesn't put him in the top 5? Because he has all the numbers. He has
Mhm.
everything other than an MVP. Everything you would want other than an MVP. To me, one of the things that knocks the Hondo legacy for me is he's not even the best small forward of the Celtics. That'll be Larry Bird. Um, he's also arguably, I mean, that you could argue Paul Pierce was better than him. I think the era he played in knocks him lower. And obviously, since the era he played in, and he was really good, and he was white, you know what I mean? Obviously, white players from back in the day are going to look at as a little suspect with it as well.
um, for me, the era does somewhat have something to do with it, just as far as unfortunately, what you're saying on a skill set level. I mean, his skills are there, obviously, but at the same time, for me, it wouldn't have been as exciting to watch as some of the other small forwards. He never won the MVP, like I was saying. For me, showing that dominance is important. I wanted to see, at least for a small forward, someone in my top 10, I wanted to see them have those stretches where they're really killing it offensively. Like I really wanted to see small forwards that are leading teams. You feel me? It's hard for me to have these small forwards up in the top 5 that aren't either the second option or the leader itself of the team. What are you gonna say?
Where do you have his range at?
Um, I mean, I would have him between range wise between a three. Oh, mm, range wise, I'd say between a 4 and 9.
Because there's somebody out there from back in the day swearing to God that Havlicek is the best small forward of all time, especially playing back in the 60s and 70s, getting 16 years. Like this is Havlicek was a model for Reggie and Rip. He was in constant motion. I don't think Reggie and Rip really played like him, but he was in constant motion. He was one of the first like really endurance NBA players. Uh, he was cut. He was I mean, he came in as a six man, spark off the bench. Like I said, all the career numbers are there. It's just he played on 8 titles teams. He won 1 Finals MVP. Um, and I know they didn't have Finals MVP for the first, what was it, 5 of his titles. So obviously that's not really a fair comparison. But I don't think he was going to outduel Sam Jones, Bob Cousy, Bill Russell, even though I think Cousy was only there for 1 title, if I believe correctly, with Havlicek. So yeah, that's what has to me. It's really, I think what really hurts Havlicek is the era. Like they said, he wasn't very flashy or efficient. That's what Woody just said. He has a career shooting percentage of 43.9%. So that's about 3 out of every 7 shots, 6 out of 14. We can keep it going if you want, but 12 out of 28, but yeah, so I think that's what hurts Hondo. I also think if he was playing for a team like, I mean, I don't know, we'll just make this up, and obviously they weren't around back then, but the New Orleans Pelicans, then I think that dude would have been that face of that franchise. But since he played for a historic team like the Celtics, he blends in with so many others, and there's so many others ahead of him. Like I said, Kuzi won an MVP with him. Russell won an MVP with him. Larry Bird won an MVP with him. So I think that really, takes him down a level, and I think that's why he's not one of the highest ones up. So
Plus,
let's
also,
go
to
ahead.
touch on that, and my bad.
No, keep going.
There's players where it doesn't matter where you put them, they're going to stand out. So
Hmm.
because he's able to blend in the team, and that's not saying that you can't play within the system, but at the same time, like for instance, KG, even when he went to Boston, he still stood out. You feel me? LeBron, he went to Miami and all out took over the team. So things like that.
Well, I think Hondo stood out with those particular Celtics. Maybe not so much with the '60 Celtics when he was first coming in, but definitely with the
Mhm.
'70s. I think he was the Dave Cowens won the MVP, and I think Hondo was the face of the franchise. No, but I'm saying in the legendary category of the Celtics as a whole. That's what I mean
Okay,
by, like, he blended in and all that. Like, for example, LeBron James obviously is standing out, but when you factor him into the Lakers, and we'll go into this a little later. When you factor him into the Lakers, I mean, he's way down the list. People get offended if you put him on the Mount Rushmore of Lakers. So that's what I mean by him being within
I
historic
got you.
franchise. Like when you think of the Rockets, who do you think of?
Olajuwon.
And that's what I mean. Something like that. And they've had some good players, but you don't think of Harden, and that's going to hurt his legacy. If he was winning MVPs with another team, that you would think of it more like that. Let's move on to 7. I have Scottie Pippen at number 7. Where do you got Scotty?
Um, so for Scotty, the reason why I don't have Scotty at 10, I had him at my number 10 at one point, but it's been bouncing around. Um, I didn't even write the list down to be honest. I had it in my head. I believe Scotty set at number 8. If it wasn't 8, it might have been 7, but he started at 10 for me.
Gotcha.
The reason why he went up is because things like the championships, the run that they went on, that dynasty, at that point in time, the way Scotty was playing, he's having games where he's able to help Mike out. He might drop 40. So things like that for Scotty is what did it for me. He was consistent defensively. He kept his field goal range and the 40s, like 45, something like that.
Hmm.
He wasn't as ball dominant as Mike, but at the same time, like I said, he could get in there and help him out, and he was always on defense. So
Well, a couple things on that. He has 6 NBA titles, 7 All NBA selections, 7 All Stars, 8 All Defensive teams. He's seventh in steals, 35th in assists, 65th in scoring, 91st in rebound, and 110th in blocks. So when he retired, he was definitely a top 100 in all those 5 categories. What really does it for me with Scotty, and it sucks that he played with Mike and all that, but he was the best small forward. One, I would say, of the '90s in totality, uh, but definitely for many, many years, he was the best small forward. I think Mullen had him the first couple years. And there's another small forward didn't even make it, Chris Mullen. And Chris Mullen had a great 4 or 5 year run where he was unbelievable. They used to call him the Larry Bird of the West. Uh, but yeah, Scotty was the best. He was a two-way player. He was very athletic. The palming, the passing, the defense, the length. And he was a low key killer. Like he wanted to win, but he didn't really wear his expressions on his sleeve like a KG or anything like that. So yeah, I have Scotty at 7th just because of that. If he could have, obviously won an MVP or a title as the man, he would go way up, way, way, way up. But he didn't do that. He is arguably the greatest Robin of all time. I think that is what his legacy will be. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with being that he took a guy over Havlicek, who was, the best player on a title team. He took over Kawhi, who was the best player on a title team. And they took over Paul Pierce, who was arguably the best player on the title team, but I'm going to say no.
and also I feel as though he's kind of like an architect for those type of players as well. Not necessarily Paul Pierce, but like a Kawhi, even a LeBron to an extent, because I mean Kawhi, the way he is, defensively kind of reminds me of Scotty, where Scotty could pretty much guard almost anyone except for the centers, just because he would have been undersized for the most part. But as far as squaring up with him, Scotty can give the length. But what I'm saying is, without a Scotty, do we have a Kevin Durant? Do we have a Kawhi Leonard? Or even the type of LeBron that we see? And I feel as though he definitely left his imprint on those type of players, and it shows.
Well, I think Scotty is one of and there's plenty of them, if we're really getting technical, but like, especially where modern day players saw it or at least knew about it. Because a lot of players now coming into the league, were born in, 2005, 4, 3, they don't remember Scotty playing. He retired in '04. But he started that kind of that positionless basketball deal. Because if you remember the first run with the Bulls, they had a true point guard in like B.J. Armstrong and a John Paxson. Now they didn't get many assists and all that, but they were actual point guards. Then if you look at the second three-peat, we went with a Ron Harper two guard, Jordan two guard, Pippen three, and all these pieces were interchangeable. Any one of them could have played point. Any one of them could have played the two.
Point
Any
forward.
one of them could play the three. And I think that's a factor that we don't argue enough when we talk about the Bulls' second three-peat was their length on the perimeter, and Scottie Pippen was the catalyst of that. Said we have Pippen, we don't need to run a point guard. You know what I mean? We can run lengths. We can run that. We can run these wing players, these long wing players, where, like I said, it doesn't matter if they handle the ball or not. We look at a team like the Phoenix Suns, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, bunch of wing players, no true point guard, and now that's what we see people running. KD
Hmm.
bringing up the ball, LeBron bringing up the ball, and I think Scotty was a catalyst. All that. I think if Scotty played now, he'd be a triple double machine, way
Yeah.
more than what he was, because obviously they're easier to get now. What
Yeah.
range do you have Scotty in? What's the highest you could see him at? The lowest you could see him at?
Since I had him at 10, my range for Scotty is 10 to 5, 5 to
10 to
10.
5 to 10. So let's move on next. The next up, I had sixth, just outside my top five. I have Rick Barry.
Rick Barry, why am I not surprised? You know what?
You got Rick Barry on the list? Where you got him?
Yeah, I had Rick Barry. I don't think Rick Barry was on my list, but Rick Barry, when you were talking honorable mentions, I lied. I think Rick Barry would have actually been one of my honorable mentions.
Okay, and we're gonna
But
have to get
yeah,
into.
Rick Barry. What'd you say?
I said we're gonna have to get into then who you got in replacement after that, after we go through the list. But just real quick, Rick Barry. What I went ahead and did is I combined his ABA stats with his NBA stats, just to make it easier. So Rick Barry, he also had to sit out a season because the NBA blocked him from going to the ABA, so he did sit out a season. But had he played that season, he would have had about 28,000 points. He's got about 25,000 now, about 8,000 rebounds, 5,000 assists. If they would have kept track of steals and all that, he led the league one time in steals at like 2.9. He probably would have had around, and that was old Rick Barry, or older Rick Barry. He probably would have had around 3,000 steals. He probably would have had around 1,500 blocks. The dude was just cold, just absolutely cold. He had 12 All Stars, 10 All League. He was a scoring champ at like 35 a game. He was a steals champ. He led the Warriors to that championship in '75. And then I guess he was such a prick to play with. His team turned on him in '76, and that's why the Suns ended up going to the finals. But to be honest with you, I want to prick on the basketball court. I'm not here to be friendly or anything like that. Jordan's an asshole, and that's why he won. Kobe was an asshole. I want my guy needs at least have a little bit of asshole in him.
Yeah, I feel
So,
that.
right, he was also a Finals MVP. He was an All Star MVP, Rookie of the Year. You said you got Rick Barry outside the top 10. Um, what range do you have Rick Barry? Where's the highest you could see him at?
The highest he would be in it. The highest he would probably be 7. He'd be 6 or 7. The lowest I think I had him at 11. Which is crazy because I didn't realize he did score over 25,000 points at the time. But
And that's a legit number for back then too.
yeah, so that kind of makes me want to edge him a little higher. But at the same time, yeah, Rick Barry.
And And Woodage knew we were going to bring that up. Rick Barry's granny free throw shooting. Hey, and that's another thing too
That
about
gotta
Rick
be
Barry.
worth something.
That's another thing about Rick Barry, why he's so high. He didn't give a fuck if he looked like shit or stupid. He cared that the ball went in. He was out there to win a game. He didn't care about looking cool, good, nothing. He's like, yo, man, I'm not gonna look good if I'm losing. And
Right.
so yeah, that's where I have. What kept Rick Barry out of the side of the top 10 for you?
Said it again.
What kept him outside the top 10 for you?
Um, really, how many seasons? I just well,
14?
not necessarily. Huh?
14?
Yeah, I mean, I feel as though Rick Barry, I don't know when he played, like that era he played in, he might have played what the '60s, the late '60s until early
The
'80s.
80s? Yeah.
Foodie got a couple more years out of him. For me, I probably would have had him a little higher. Like some, I don't know.
So it's
I
kind of like
really
what I
don't
was
know
saying
at
about
this point.
it's kind of like what I
Huh?
was saying about Havlicek. Gets knocked for the era he played in, the
Yeah.
competition, and all that. And that's what I was trying to say, and that's what I'm trying to say. Greatness transcends. Whatever you accomplish is whatever you accomplish. At the end of the day, in the late '60s to he was playing the best players in the world. Uh,
Hmm.
he was winning a title, and I got news for you. Nobody was winning a title in Golden State back then, because if you remember after that, Golden State sucked for the next 40 years.
Dang.
I mean, they had Run TMC. Nobody could get past the second round. Even the We Believe Warriors, they beat the Mavs, and then they just got crushed by the Jazz, who then got crushed by the Spurs. So I mean, it's not even like that. But yeah, Rick Barry definitely deserves a more honorable mention, and higher up on his accolades. That dude was awesome. If he didn't go to the ABA, that's one of the reasons why I think he would have been a lot higher. If he if he played a little more flashier, a little more fluid or whatever, that would be higher. And yeah, I think more people need to remember Rick Barry. After this, so I'm gonna go with my number 5 guy right now, and that is Elgin Baylor. I got Elgin Baylor at 5. Where you got Elgin?
I got Ezra as number five. I want no shock there. Actually, I think the top five is probably gonna be pretty consistent. But
Yeah, we'll see who's in what order. Just real quick, Elgin Baylor, he had 10 All NBA first team selections, 11 All Stars. He's 27th in rebound, 33rd in scoring. He's 156 in assists. He averaged one year. He averaged 38 and 20 one year at 6'5". Um, so yeah, what do you got on Elgin Baylor for me? Why do you got him at 5?
I mean, these accolades that he has. I mean, 11-time All Star, 10-time All NBA, got
First
an
team,
All Star in, huh?
first team, 10-time All NBA first team.
You feel me? He's been Rookie of the Year. He just accolades are there. Um, and he did it in 14 years.
Not only that, he came in at 24. He had to do some military service as well. So, I mean, we didn't even get those 22, 23 years. Just for example, 23 is the year Jordan averaged like 37. So we missed probably athletic,
Hmm.
his peak athletic skill set. Um, he got knocked for never winning a title. If he had won a title, I mean, I don't really know where I would have had him. He had 23,000 points, 12,000 boards. That's really impressive at 6'5". Like I said, almost 20 rebounds a game at 6'5". He had the cold ass parting in his hair. That's got to be worth something.
Not the part.
Hey, hey,
It's
hey,
all about the side part. You
but
need the side part.
you do. But I want to say this: R.I.P. Elgin. But the worst thing you ever did was wearing that wig you wore. You wore that wig in your 80s and it looked awful. So you had the cold part in the 50s and the 60s, and you went with you just trust me, baby. You got to come home sometimes. If it ain't working, it
I'm
ain't working.
done.
But That
That be
that's really
what's
my biggest
involved in
knock
some
on.
people.
That's really my biggest knock on Elgin was the wig in later years. He wasn't that good of an executive. It has nothing to do with his greatness, though. Not only that, he was the first real high flyer, kind of like in the motion there. You ever listen to the old players talk about him? They were saying, especially in the games that we have no footage footage, he was coming down, dropping it down, pulling it between, gliding through the air. I don't think he was doing any of that. But I think at the time when you saw guys like, Kuzi on the ground, Wilt Chamberlain with his little dunk, and that was about it. I think, to see some fluidity and some movement in the air and some change in directions. I think that was pretty amazing. I think he got robbed in one of the MVP decisions. I think he should have an MVP. I hate that people think it was West's team. Elgin Baylor was a much better player than Jerry West. Jerry West, obviously, he took the shots at the end, and yeah. Woody, he just said first point forward. Yeah, I could see him being the first point forward as well, because he came out in 58. So I think it sucks that he played like 9 games on the 72 Lakers that went 69-13, and they're like he never won a title. I don't get why he didn't win a title. He played 9 games on him. He should have he contributed to the team. Well, no, it's like this: if you get traded at the end of the year, and you play
That
nine
got nothing to
games,
do with you.
right? But I'm just saying, there's been plenty of players that have been injured, no playoff runs, they got a ring. They only played a few games that year. Phil Jackson sat out the whole next year. Didn't play any of the playoffs. Didn't play off any of the games. Still got a ring. How do you explain that? Speaking of which, where do you have Phil Jackson on your all-time small forwards?
On my all-time wet list,
Small forwards. Where do you have Phil at?
I don't I don't have him anywhere worth mentioning. He's
I
not
mean,
in
I mean,
my
we
top.
we we got him top 500.
Well, yeah, he was in the top 500.
So there you go, Phil. If you're watching the podcast, and we know you're not, we have you at the top 500 small forwards all time. If you don't like your ranking, please come on and let's talk about it. A side note: this has nothing to do with. I mean, well, Phil, my all-time favorite Phil Jack. And I should really save this for the beginning of one, and I think I'm going to use it on a beginning one because I like it so much. Is one time when they were playing the Celtics, the Lakers and the Celtics were playing. So Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were cheering behind the Lakers bench, for the Celtics.
Oh
Phil
yeah,
gets
I know this.
Phil gets up and he goes, "Sit down and shut the fuck up."
That wasn't very zen like.
No, but it just was. And there we go. So yes, Phil Jackson is the honorable mention of honorable mentions. So, next up at number 4, I have Dr. J.
I did as well.
Okay, cool. So
I'm
I
shocked.
combined.
I'm actually shocked.
Why are you
I don't
shocked?
know why. I just knew you was gonna have Dr. J at number 3. But yeah, I got him in
No,
number
I got
4.
him at 4. So
Okay,
see, I've
okay.
shocked the world. I've shocked the world. Dr. J, like I said, I combined his numbers as well. Um, so he's got 30,000 points, 10,000 assists, 10,000 rebounds, 5,000 assists, 2,000 blocks, 2,000 steals, 16-time All-Star, 3-time champ, 12-time All-Pro, 4-time MVP, 2-time All-Star. You said you got Dr. J at 4. Oh, real quick, where do you have because we didn't ask that. I don't think we asked any. Where would you have Rick Barry's range? Because we missed that one.
Rick Barry's range. I thought I did say, but if not,
Okay, and they're right. Yeah, you did. 6, 7, yeah, to 11. I'm sorry. Elgin Baylor, where do you have his range?
Elgin Baylor. His range for me is 8 to 6.
8 to 6,
No, 9 to 6. 9 to 6.
9 to 6. Okay. And then Dr. J, before we get into yours, you said you got him at 4th. Where's Dr. J's range? Do you think he's got an argument for the best small forward of all time?
Unfortunately, I mean, no, not
What
not
about
because of
second?
who, huh?
What about second?
Even second is tough. Even second is tough.
Because there's an old head out there swearing to God Dr. J is the best small forward of all time.
Second is tough. I think he's got argument from 3 to 6.
That's pretty good. So tell us why you got Dr. J at 4.
Um, Dr. J, another flyer, another soar. He's another pioneer. He's, basically giving us the blueprint for a Jordan-ish type of player. Not only was he an offensive player, but he has the all defensive team that he made. He came into the league pretty much dominant. He was on an all rookie team. Things like that. Just constantly being an all star. He's an exciting player to watch. You feel me?
Do
As
you
you
think the
already
culture
mentioned, that's
do you think the culture effect of Dr. J really factors into his greatness?
the culture effect that he had.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. He brought style to the league. He brought finesse and things like that. He made players more comfortable. You feel me? Without a Dr. J, I don't think we see an Iverson.
Do you plan on doing your fro like Dr. J and your goatee, or
I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna try to bring it back, see what we can do. You know, well, I still
some
got it.
sometimes you got to bring it back like a relay. I'll tell you what's crazy about Dr. J. He influenced so many players, but what's really nuts to me is, so you think Dr. J, he influences Jordan. Jordan influences Kobe. Kobe influences Devin Booker. Um Dr. J's a small forward, and he came in as like a rebounder and shot blocker, getting like 12 rebounds a game, 3 block shots, things like that. Um, why didn't he influence, you think, more small forwards? It seems like the two guards adapted his influence more than the small forwards did.
Well, for one, the two guards and small forwards are very similar as is. Like a lot of times, the only difference between a two guard and a small forward is probably like a inch or two in height, or maybe like 5 or 10 pounds, or up to like 15 pounds. So it's like sometimes the small forward might be just a little too big or too heavy to play the way that the two guard is, or sometimes the two guard likes the fact that this player is big enough to do this, so let me try to mimic my game like them a little bit more so that I can be more dominant on these smaller guards.
They also say Dr. J had all the ladies.
His name is the doctor.
They said he had all the ladies. Another honorable mention, we didn't name Dominique Wilkins. They said he had Atlanta like locked down too. They said everybody talks about all the players, ambassadors of the city. They said Dominique Wilkins, another small forward, had
Neek,
it locked down.
the original Neek.
The original Neek. Um, let's move on to number 3. At number 3, I got KD. Who you got? You
I
got
don't
K.
think. I mean, I was shocked that he was number 3, but at the same time, I knew he was gonna be in the top 5. Where do I have KD? I had KD at number 3 as well.
Number 3 as well. Where would you have his range?
There's no range. He's just number 3. Nah,
You don't think he could have been 2?
KD's range is 3 to 5. Huh.
You don't think he could have been 2?
Could have been 2, not yet.
Yeah.
Can he get to number 2? Possibly. KD, for me, if KD wins another title, depending on what team on top of that too. But like if he's
Let's
in
go with the Suns.
Phoenix, I feel like KD would have to win a couple titles for me to put him at that number 2 spot.
Why?
The reason being,
Phoenix don't even have any titles.
I know I would need him to go on a run. I would need him to go on just like when he was with the Warriors, how he was able to consistently make it to the finals. I'm gonna need him to do that with Phoenix as well. The reason being is because for one, he would have the pieces there, so there would be nothing stopping him. But then the reason I would need him to do it so consistently is because of the fact that again, you got the pieces there. You better be able to do this. So
I think he's got the pieces on paper, like if you look at, but then you start factoring in the other teams. Um, I mean, Phoenix is what, maybe the 8th best team in the league right now? Maybe. I don't really know. I mean, looking at him, if you got the pieces, how are his pieces of Beal, Booker, Durant better than a Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden. We'll just do that. Or how is his pieces better than the deepness of the Celtics? Or the duo of Lillard and Giannis, or Jokic, or whoever.
The depth of the Celtics is different. You feel me? Or like, going up against the Nuggets is a little different too. Um, I feel as though a team like the Clippers, they could evenly match up against the Clippers. So then it's just a toss up type of game. I feel like that's pretty much the story with most of the teams that are in the top eight on East and West. I feel as though there's those few teams, like two or three teams that they definitely are not going to beat at this point in time. But other than that, I feel as though it's a toss up. I feel as though if it's not the Nuggets, whoever is in the West, Phoenix has a good chance of actually beating them. And same on the East. If it's not Boston, I feel like Phoenix has a good chance of beating any of those other Eastern teams. I mean, Philly, they lost Embiid, so
What if, let me ask you, what would you think would be better for KD's legacy if, let's say, the Suns continue to, hit and miss in the regular season? Let's say Bradley Beal's out. And let's say the Suns win something like 47 games. They're like the sixth seed. They win every game series on the road, and they win the title. Or they go on a huge run right now. They win like 55 games. They go, whatever, 21-3 down the stretch. They get, some home court advantage. They look more dominant or whatever, but obviously it's against weaker opponents. What do you think would be better for his legacy?
adversity. What would be better for his legacy? It's a comeback story. So in this instance,
Them inconsistent in the regular season and then go on a run in the playoffs?
yeah,
Well, let me just read off these KD numbers and stuff. He has two titles, two Finals MVPs, an MVP, six All NBA first team selections, 13 All Star games. He's 13th in scoring, 80th in blocks, 100 in assists, 116th in rebounds, 151st in steals. So if he doesn't win any more titles, but he has just like 35,000 points and just crazy numbers, could that vault him up to number two or no?
maybe it at that point it depends on how he's finishing um his career. You feel me? If he's finishing his career with winning averages or, in contention or something like that, then yeah. But other than that, he can't just be out there scoring a bunch of points that isn't translating to wins or even a winning season. Because
I got you.
what's the point of that?
So I think anybody that knows anything can figure out who our top two is going to be. But before we get into our top two, um, obviously I had somebody in the top 10 that you didn't. Who did you have in that I'm missing?
So let's see.
Because you said I had Rick Barry in, you didn't have Rick Barry in, correct?
No, I didn't have Rick. Did you
Right.
say James Worthy?
No, I didn't say James Worthy.
That's what I had. I had Worthy. 7-time All Star, 3-time champ, 2-time All NBA, made All Rookie team. He's a Hall of Famer. Made a Finals MVP. He's on the top 75.
What number did you have him at?
I had him at like I said, I had the numbers in my head. Things kind of got messed up. I had him at 8 or nine. I'm not 8 or 9. I had him at 9 or 10. He was somewhere low on my list.
Yeah, what kept James Worthy out of the top 10 for me, I think as a top 10 guy, uh, you kind of got to have it be your team most of the time. He played with, Magic, Kareem. He was the third guy, and then as Kareem got old, maybe he went up to the second guy. Magic abruptly retired. He played 2 or 3 years as the man. Wasn't very good. Falling, I think his last season he was getting like 11 a game, and he only played like 13 years. So I think 11 a game at 13 years. I never really saw the peak. Obviously, he played in the system. He probably would have been better if he played for someone else. But the way his career played
Hmm.
out, we can't go off what ifs or anything, just kind of what it was. Um, he was never the best small forward in the league. He just, like I said, he was solid. I just, I just wouldn't have him in my top 10 and all that, and that's why I didn't pick him.
Where'd
Um,
you have him?
I
Range.
mean, oh, I don't know. So James Worthy, just going off the top of my head, like I said, I'd rather have Billy Cunningham than him. I think he's got a better career going. I think Dominique Wilkins has an argument for better career than him. I think who else are some small forwards that I think that's got a bigger. So I don't know, probably like 13th to 15th range, something like that. I mean, not too far off the top 10. I just don't think he's a top 10 guy. Um, After all that, let's move into the number second player. I have Larry Bird. Do you have Larry Bird at second?
Larry Legend is the one. Yeah, he well not the
Larry.
one, he's the two, but yeah.
Well, you know how LeBron is LBJ. Larry is actually LJB. He is Larry Joe Bird. So uh, somebody came along and switched it up on him. So he has 3 titles, 2 Finals MVP. He was robbed of one in '81 with Cedric Maxwell winning the Finals MVP. He's got 3 MVPs in a row, 9 All-NBA first team selection, 12 All-Stars. He's 36th in scoring, 39th in steals, 48th in assists, 56th in rebound, 161st in block. Pretty good considering as far as games go. He didn't even play 11 full seasons. He has 890 games, takes 902 games to play 11 full seasons. Um,
He
so
got a lot done in 11 years
with a
or
bad
11
back for
seasons.
the last like what 6 years of his career, something like that. So yeah, I think Larry, as far as offensively goes, he had no flaws in his game. He wasn't fast or anything, but he got to all his spots. He was, like I said, he was such a cerebral player. He played the game shoulders up. He did have a physical advantage in the fact that he was 6'9", so he was taller than most people, especially when you consider he was 6'9" out on the, and obviously they try to get closer, but he could play on the perimeter. He had such a mental edge on anybody. I've never heard this story, obviously, but and I mean, like I know he gave him his flowers afterwards, but I could see Jordan dropping 63 on him, and Larry still finding a way to talk shit. Larry could negate. Uh, yes, that is correct. He did help his mom repave her driveway, or he was pouring cement in her driveway. One of the two. Either way, you had to repave it afterwards. Yeah, and that's what hurt his back. He had such a mental edge. That's really what separates him over, to me, really anybody on this list is his mental ability. You could not break the man. He was a killer. Um, his numbers don't even do him justice. I think he would translate, especially when we see guys like Luka and Jokic dominating the leads. I think he would translate really well into this league. Also, too,
Yeah,
you got to figure all of his college and high school career, there was no 3 point shot. So imagine if he worked on the 3 pointer like they're doing now. Um, I think, too, that players are not as, I guess, hard would be the term. So I think Larry would dominate in that. Tell me why you got Larry at 2.
Larry is for one. He is a leader. As you see, he went MVP 3 years in a row. He's also a champ. He rises to every occasion that you possibly need him to rise to. Whether it's on the defensive end, whether it's on the offensive end, he's that player that you can stick on um, good players and have him defending well. He's also that player that at the end of the game, you want the ball to go to him. Like I said, within 11 seasons, he accomplished an awful lot for it to have been 11 seasons. Then on top of that,
Well, 11 seasons worth of games. He played 13.
yeah. But
Yeah.
on top of that, even the way that he went out, feeling as though I no longer want to play this game unless I get to compete against this person I've been competing with. This whole, like, he that's somebody with the type of heart you don't see too often in this game.
What do you think about, what do you think factors into his legacy about being the, the icon of white players? He is the white man's hopeful that you can dominate the league. I mean, obviously, maybe Jokic or Doncic takes that mantle from him, but where do you think that affects his legacy? Because I've heard a lot of pushback, be like, you only saying this because he was white. The Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman thing. If Larry was a black dude, he'd just be another player. But because he's white, we elevate him. Do you think that affects his legacy?
Well, first of all, do we not praise the black players that are three-time MVPs, that are multiple championship winners, that are multiple All-Stars? So it's just like that's for one asinine to even say because that doesn't change the fact that this is still a great player that we will be mentioning. This is still a legendary player that we will be talking about. So his color has nothing to do with it. Um, Now the argument could be his style of play may not be, because a lot of times people go for the flashier players. His style of play may not be the type that you like or the type that you model yourself after if you want to be that type of flashy player. But if you want the job done, if you want consistent results, then you definitely want to play like him. So it's like there's nothing to knock about that. If this is a game of basketball, this is a game of figuring out how to score and how to stop your opponents from scoring. And he's doing both of these things, and he's doing it at the level that he's doing it at. I don't think there's really much of an argument against him, no matter what he came out looking like.
What range do you have Larry Bird in?
Until and if, I mean, unless KD does more before his career is over, Larry's where he is. He's cemented at number two until Durant surpasses him, if that happens, and or
Would,
when it
would you
happens.
would you understand someone with their logic if they were like, "Hey, I think Larry Bird is the greatest small forward of all time over LeBron"?
Over LeBron,
Yes,
at at this point, I don't think is debatable. I mean, you
I
can
got you.
debate it all day, but at this point, I don't think there's much validity to that argument. It kind of is what it is. LeBron is the one at this point.
I got you. So then let's move to our number one guy, and obviously that is LeBron James. Surprise, 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 surprise. Um, LeBron, he's got 4 NBA titles, 4 Finals MVPs, 4 MVPs, 13 All NBA first team selection, 20 All Stars, 5 All Defensive selection, first in scoring, fourth in assists, ninth in steal, 32nd in rebound, 90th in blocks. Um, like I said, I think we both agree LeBron is in range of 1 to 1. Would we agree with that? What do you think separates LeBron from everybody else in the pack?
LeBron has been consistently dropping 20. He came out the gate dropping 20. Like you feel me? He has been consistently showing you that for one, I'm gonna eat as far as offensively, but at the same time, LeBron, he's a great defender. He's a great ball handler. He's an explosive player, or he once upon a time was, but even now he does it in spurts. He's a champion. Um, he's a very physically opposing player. So not only does he give you offensive dominance, not only is he big and he's fast and he's able to guard and everything like that, but he's also very unguardable at times. So it's like going up against a monster.
I think too. I think another thing is over time. I think LeBron has figured it out more mentally as well. So I think now when you factor in all those skill sets, the mentally, obviously the defense is non-existence now. He doesn't even play defense, and he conserves all his energy for the offensive end, which is fine. The only thing I don't like is he's playing no defense. He looks at the other player, he looks at his teammates and starts bitching about them not playing defense. Now you
Because he
can't
put his
complain.
work in. He put his work in. And LeBron, and he's the same dude that's gonna chase you down and swat it off the backboard to, ensure that win. So I get what you're saying though, but he's at a point in his career where he doesn't have to be as aggressive on the defensive end when he has younger players and younger teammates around to do so. Now I get what you're saying. Don't be slacking off. Get out there and grind. I get that. But unfortunately, we have these players who don't feel the need to go hard all 82 games. You feel me? We
So
have
so here's the thing though. Facts. LeBron already did his time on defense. How is his chase down block of Iguodala in 2016 going to help the 2024 Lakers? That's my point. And secondly, like I
the
said, I don't even care that you're not playing D. What I'm saying is don't bitch when somebody else didn't pick up your rotation, didn't pick up your guy. That's not their fault. You're deciding not to play D. And it's kind of at the point now where it looks like, because LeBron can say whatever he wants to say or whatever, and he is the greatest small forward of all time, and he is, in my opinion, like I said, I have a rotating five who can be arguably the greatest player of all time. They all five have an argument, so I can't definitively say who is, who isn't, but he's up there. He's one of those guys. But it seems like now LeBron cares about his numbers. That is his argument for his greatness. He wants to be the greatest player of all time. And I got news for you. Anybody's got a shot at being the greatest player of all time. Why wouldn't you want it? So I'm not even knocking him for it. But I'm saying it's like he puts so much energy on the offensive end because that's where he knows his greatness is going to lie. It's fuck the defense now, and it's all their faults and things like that. And that's what I don't like. I'll put it this way. Me personally, I would much rather LeBron average 17 a game and him play D the best he could versus averaging 25 and playing no D. Because both ends, you're not going to win playing 4-on-5 on defense. And we've seen that over the last couple of years. It's just not going to do it.
I don't think it's so much. I mean, for me at least, the way I see it, I feel as though, yes, you're right. As far as his legacy is gonna lie on his points at this venture. I mean, at this point in his career. However, I don't knock him for being the old grumpy guy on the court or on the team neither. Like I said before, he has shown consistency throughout his entire career. Like, you feel me? I don't think he's blaming other people. It's just more so trying to motivate them. You feel me? It's, yo, I'm gonna need you to step up. You feel me? Oh, if you see my man Barney, go ahead and get to the point or call something out. You feel me? I don't, because it's like I said, it can be that fire. It can be what changes. Like for instance, a Dwight on Orlando versus a Dwight on the Lakers. You feel me? It could be that difference maker.
Yeah, but I mean, I would think Kobe was a much better motivator than, Jameer Nelson on Orlando. And we saw Dwight fall off like that. So I'm just saying it's hard to knock somebody when you're not doing it. If you're Austin Reeves or whatever, and I'm not saying Austin Reeves is like this, obviously, but like, bro, I got news for you. You didn't bring me no titles. You didn't. You're not motivating me with no D. So on that note, we're going to answer this one more question, and then we're going to be out for the night. On LeBron's defense, there was certain players out there like Vando that's out there to pick up LeBron's slack. He does the same for them on offense. And I agree with you, but you can't have that. You can't have, four people picking up a fifth person slack. You can't you need a balance, especially in the
But it's
league
not
now.
for that. I mean, he's not throwing a whole team at his man. It's just sometimes, LeBron has a lot on his plate. Sometimes it's like, yo, man, give give me that extra energy. Give me that breather so that I can come down here and I can score for us. You're not scoring, help out on defense. You feel me? I'll pick up the slack on the offense. You pick up the slack on the defense. Like, I get that.
Is that going to win him a title?
It can. It can. It really can. Because if you help him out enough defensively and it gives him enough, I guess, enough leg, gives him enough stamina, gives him enough that he needs to actually be aggressive offensively. Because LeBron can score anywhere when he wants to. You feel me? The sky's the limit for him. So it could.
So you think the Lakers have a chance to win the title this year?
This year, no.
So it's not
Like,
going to help. That's how he's playing this year. It's not going to help. His goal is to win the title, right? That's what he needs. He needs the all-time scoring record, and he needs a couple more rings. So that is what I'm saying. I don't think that's going to help them or whatever. At least not with their current roster. He needs to play more D, and that's just where we're at if they want to win the title. So on that note, though, we are going to take off for the evening. Um, until then, till tomorrow, we will check y'all tomorrow as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate your feedback and comments. Until then, we will check y'all tomorrow.
oh
Please
yeah,
like and
I say,
subscribe.
he say.